Isn't that so?
Αυτή δεν είναι μια ψευδαίσθηση επιλογή? Γιατί στην πραγματικότητα είναι πολύ...
I think I was saying something rather similar. In other words, you're presented with the slate of candidates. There may be some differences among them, but probably not as many differences as you think. But we are also in a situation where we're having these fights that are very important to us. And while we're having the fight that's very important to us, a great big giant is coming over the hill. So we would probably be better advised to try to do something about the giant, don't you think? However, those with the money don't want to do that because they're still making money out of the present system.
Τελειώνοντας, για να δώσω και το λόγο στους φίλους που είναι εδώ για να μιλήσουν μαζί σας, θα ήθελα να σας ρωτήσω, είναι λιγάκι σχηματικό το ερώτημα. Υπάρχει μια σκηνή στο Στάλκερ του Ταρκόφσκι που ο Βαρκάρης περιμένει κάποιος να τους περάσει απέναντι στο νησί που πραγματοποιούνται όλες οι επιθυμίες, αλλά λίγο πριν μπει κάποιος μέσα σε αυτή τη βάρκα, του εξηγεί ότι μπορεί να μην υπάρχει επιστροφή, μπορεί να μην υπάρχει δρόμος επιστροφής, δηλαδή στη ζωή που υπάρχουν και ανεκπλήρωτες επιθυμίες, και να μείνουν για πάντα εκεί. Επιλέγουν οι άνθρωποι αν θα το κάνουν ή δεν θα το κάνουν το ταξίδι. Εάν υποθέσουμε λοιπόν ότι υπάρχει μια τέτοια σκηνή, υπάρχει μια βάρκα, που εκεί απέναντι υπάρχει το νησί της Δυστοπίας, και από εδώ υπάρχει όλη αυτή η ιστορία με τις δυστοπίες που περιγράφουμε. Σαν συγγραφέα σας ρωτάω, θα προτιμούσατε να γράφετε σε ένα περιβάλλον που ουσιαστικά να μιλάει για τις ουτοπίες ή σε ένα περιβάλλον που μιλάει για τις δυστοπίες περισσότερο? Τι είναι πιο ερεθιστικό για εσάς σαν συγγραφέα?
Well, luckily, that's not the choice facing us as writers. It's not this either-or choice. The island where all wishes come true is not necessarily a utopia, because somebody's wishes might be quite malevolent. For instance, if my wishes are that I will go to that island and kill all my enemies, because that's my wish, if they happen to be on that island too, it's not very good for them. So wishes are not universally benevolent. We have a list of human wishes. It's a very well-known list. Mostly the qualities that we gave to the gods are the things that we would like to have ourselves. But achieving those things would quite frequently conflict with other people's wishes. For instance, the gods have multiple sexual partners, but people also would like to have their partner be faithful to them. So the math doesn't work out. It's like that. And people would like... It's not my fault.
Έχετε όλη την καλή διάθεση, αλλά δεν προκύπτει.
Well, the math doesn't work out. You can't have everybody having multiple sexual partners and everybody also having somebody who's faithful only to them. You know, it doesn't compute. But the gods are interested in those things. So the gods, again, they like to fly around. And people longed to fly around for a very, very, very long time, and now we have airplanes. But it's not all good. So every time we fulfill one of our wishes, there's usually a downside that we haven't thought about. Electricity has been very, very beneficial to us, but there's a cost for it. You know, there are various downsides to having it that we now have to think about. Food for everyone. We can keep on doing food for everyone until we've completely depleted the sea. We've already done 90% of it. And until we run out of arable land, until the population outgrows our ability to feed it. But that was our wish. Food for everyone. We wanted that. And so it goes. We wanted to be able to prolong life. We've done it. You know, the life expectancy now is much older than it used to be. But there's been a price. I just read a piece in the paper today. We're facing a demographic time bomb because a lot of young people don't have jobs. What's going to happen then? They're going to get very annoyed. Actually, they're probably already quite annoyed. So how do we fulfill the wishes of everyone? It's very hard to do.
Θα ήθελα, τελειώνοντας, να μου πείτε ποια είναι η δική σας, ο δικός σας ορισμός της λέξης κρίσης, κοινωνικής κρίσης. Τι σημαίνει για σας κοινωνική κρίση, πάντα βασιζόμενοι στο θέμα το οποίο συζητάμε.
So a lot of people have told me already here in Greece that you're having a crisis. So it's a financial crisis, or it may also be a demographic crisis with young people not having jobs, or even lots of people not having jobs, many different people not having jobs. Is that what we mean by crisis? Do we have gradations of crisis? Do we have a sort of medium crisis? Do we have a much worse crisis in which, for instance, all the buildings are falling down? Or do we have an even worse crisis in which we've killed the ocean and therefore we can no longer breathe? So to me, the crisis we really have to worry about is the crisis of the planet, because unless we come to terms with that, the other crises won't mean anything. We use money right now because it's a handy thing that we invented, and we can exchange it for other things. But if there are no other things to exchange it for, it becomes useless, which is the story about Midas, who wanted the golden touch. He wanted everything he touched to turn to gold, and then it did, and he starved to death. So what we really have to worry about is our place on a planet that can't get any bigger and that is facing a crisis of its own, having to do with the biosphere and more particularly with the oxygen-producing agent, which is the ocean.
Δεν φαίνεται όμως λίγο οξύμορο στους ανθρώπους που με την εντύπωση που έχουν για τη ζωή τους πιστεύουν ότι περνάνε μια πολύ δύσκολη θέση, να τους λέμε ότι αυτό το οποίο που είναι το ζητούμενο είναι η πλανητική κρίση. Δηλαδή όταν ο άλλος ζει τη δική του κρίση μέσα στο μυαλό του, που είναι αυτή η καθημερινότητα, μπορεί να του προβάλλει κάποιος με την κρίση την...
Exactly, that's a problem. Because if you are having a hard time today, today is the day you have to get through. So, of course, we're short-term thinkers. Those of our ancestors who said, I think I'll save this banana until next year, and meanwhile I won't have anything to eat, those did not become our ancestors. because they died. So we always, we're thinking about today, tomorrow, next week. It's hard for us to think about even 20 years, let alone 50. You know, it's just hard for us to think that far ahead, especially if it's we ourselves today who are having the hard time. So I don't think it should be people who are having the hard time who ought to be thinking about that. I think it's the people who aren't having a hard time who should be thinking about it, because as the ancient Greeks told us, they have the leisure to do all this thinking. So if they've got the leisure, let them do the thinking. Start now, and we have enough of them worldwide, and enough people with enough money that they can dedicate to the solution of these problems. And Mr. Rockefeller has already started because he just invested his holdings into renewable energy. So it should be those people who do it.
Γιατί δεν το κάνουν ενώ μπορούν?
Why are the people who can do it doing it? Maybe they are benefactors. Maybe they actually intend well to humanity. Now, it doesn't always work out when you intend well to humanity. Sometimes that backfires. But they, anyway, have the power to do those things. And since they have so much.
Η δυστοπία είναι, η απληστία είναι ένα είδος δυστοπίας.
Is greed a form of dystopia? Do you mean hunger or greed?
Για απληστία.
I think if everybody's really hungry, that's definitely a dystopia. Greed is wanting more than you need. So I don't think it in itself is a form of dystopia. As I said, a dystopia is an organized society, but it can lead to dystopia for other people. If you are so greedy that you keep all of the wealth for yourself and don't recirculate it, we have mythological creatures who do that, and they're called dragons. And what dragons do is they scrape together all of the gold that they can, and then they sit on it. So maybe we need some St. George's, or maybe we need to explain to the dragons that they need to circulate more of their gold, because it's not doing anything if they just sit on it. It's not being very helpful if they only sit on it. So Mr. Rockefeller has decided not just to sit on his pile of gold, he's going to deploy it. And if more Mr. Rockefellers did that, we would have more hope of a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it for Mr. Rockefeller.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, Μάργκαρετ Άτγουντ, για σας, όποιος θα ήθελε, έχει τη δυνατότητα να μιλήσει μαζί της.